White Smoke was less than 10 miles away. It had been 19 days. Royce Bryce had been on the road without a bath, living out of his sleeper cabin. The tanks of old Jezebel were running dry, and all he wanted was a warm meal and soft bed for the night when he pulled into the settlement White Smoke. Although with only a dozen shops, it was hardly a settlement to speak of. The road into White Smoke was as rough as the forest that surrounded it. Loose gravel snaked between high trees with sudden turns and room enough for only a single vehicle. The black Mack truck rounded a bend and Royce swung the 18-wheeler off the road and pulled up near a wooden building. Beside the building was a fuel tanker. The door opened with a squeak and Royce leaped down. He looked around. Old Joe should be around somewhere, he thought. Most days when he filled up, the man would come to greet him. When he was there last time, he asked the man how many people lived in White Smoke. Old Joe had replied, 99. Royce wasn't sure if the man was telling the truth or just pulled a number out of the air. Royce had spent his life on the road, and it had been a lonely 20 years, but he couldn't imagine living in a town with less than 100 people. He walked to the building and knocked on the door. When no answer came, the second knock became a bang. "Joe," he yelled. "Joe, you in there?" Parked up away from the building were two other rigs and a 4x4. They were no more than a short walk away, so he made his way there and banged on the door of the first truck. He tried the handle, but it was locked. Their owners must be in the hotel, he thought, getting a good night's rest. The hotel sat behind a trading store. Despite the town having less than 100 people, he had never seen the place abandoned like this. There had always been a few hunters, truckers, or tourists standing around waiting for gas or to buy supplies. A sound had him turning. There in the distance, he saw a dark figure along a tree-lined path. A man who stumbled and fell over, staggered to his feet, and continued his fumbling walk. The man must be blind drunk, thought Royce. As the man drew closer, there were things about him that he found strange. The man's clothes were ridden with dirt, and his shirt looked to be blood-stained. He staggered with only one shoe, and his hair reminded Royce of the coarseness of a mane of a horse. But it was the loud clicking of his teeth that unnerved Royce the most. The man bit loudly in the air, his teeth a-chatter on the wind, like the way a dog snaps at flies. When he got to within 50 feet, Royce recognized him as Old Joe. But this was not the man he had known. There were many things that were different about this stumbling wreck, but now close enough to see him clearly, the thing he noticed the most was his skin, black like a wrinkled dried olive. "Joe," he yelled, waving, "it's Royce, I need gas." His walk wasn't the act of a sober man, but now Royce didn't think it was alcohol that made him walk like this. If it had been summer, he might have thought he had spent too much time outside and caught sunstroke. But it was early winter with barely a few hours of light during the day. As he got closer to Royce, he reached out with grabbing hands. A putrid smell of rotting flesh hit his nose, and he felt as if he would vomit. "Get out of the way!" The scream came from behind him somewhere. Royce spun to see a young woman standing about 100 feet away, brandishing a rifle. "Get out of the way, you fool!" she screamed. A shot rang out close enough that Royce thought he felt air skim his skin. He couldn't say which way he moved, but his feet took off away from Old Joe. A foot away, another shot cracked the air, and Royce thought he would be dead, but he was wrong. Blood splattered across his face, and Old Joe collapsed like a boxer being knocked out. The blood had hit the side of his face, cold and thick. The girl took a few long strides closer, still holding the weapon, but now it was aimed at him. "Wash it off, you," she yelled frantically. "It's poisonous." "What?" Royce cried back, looking at the gun. "The blood, it's on the side of your face. Wash it off with snow now." The girl picked up a fistful of snow and threw it at him. Royce bent down and grabbed handfuls of snow, rubbing it against his skin where the blood was. The snow ran down his face and under his jacket. "Have you been bit?" the girl screamed. Bit? When he looked up, the girl had taken a dozen more steps closer. She was now too close to escape and too far away to rush her for the weapon. "Did it bite you?" she yelled again. All the time the weapon was on him. Royce looked down at Old Joe. The rifle had blown the left half of his head off. One eye looked up at him as if it could still see. What blood there was black like tar. "No," he yelled back. "Have you been bit in the last week by anyone?" Royce shook his head indignantly. "I've been in the forests. You're the first people I've seen for the last 10 days. The girl lowered her gun and Royce could see the tenseness go out of her body. "Come on," she said, "you need to wash it out of your hair as well." And then she took off at a run. Royce followed, his boots await in the snow. She took him to a house and into a washroom. There's no hot water, but the tap still works. "You're lucky we've got a home bore that runs on pressure. Don't get any of it in your mouth. If you do, spit it out, and close your eyes tight as well." She threw him a bar of soap and closed the door. The icy water brought his skin out in goosebumps, but he didn't feel anything except confusion and fear of what had happened. He had known old Joe for a number of years, ever since he had left working in Anchorage for the forestry. Now seeing him dead brought a feeling of sadness to Royce. When the door opened a second time, clothes and a towel were thrown onto the ground. Royce left the bathroom dressed in somebody else's clothes. He was a big man and they didn't fit well, too tight, and he had trouble just putting them on. He passed a fireplace, but the house was cold. He guessed it hadn't been heated for days now. He found the girl waiting for him in the kitchen with 2 steaming mugs. "I hope you like coffee," she said with a faint smile before taking a mouthful of the hot Joe. At that moment in his life, he liked anything warm. He took it and wrapped his hands around it. He took a moment to look at her. 20, he guessed. Long blonde hair that fell below her shoulder. Tall for a woman, 5'8", maybe an inch taller, and slim but with muscle. The clothes she wore were that of a hunter, camo from head to toe with heavy black army boots. He had seen her once or twice before when he filled up with gas, and thought how pretty she looked then. Now her beauty was hidden beneath a thick winter jacket and pants. The woman didn't look mad to him, completely the opposite. Calm was the way he would describe her. When he had studied her and made up his mind, she wasn't going to kill him, he spoke. "That was old Joe," he said. "You killed old Joe." "That wasn't the old Joe you knew, and I didn't kill him." The sentence didn't make any sense. If it wasn't old Joe, who was it? The girl gave him a slightly sour look. "It used to be old Joe. That was before he got the disease." "Disease?" "Yes, disease," she emphasized with the words being louder. "It turns people into those biters." "Biters? That's what I call them. If that thing had bitten you, you would have caught the disease and turned into one of those creatures. It's why I shot it." Now knowing what would have happened to him, he was honestly glad she did, but now he was confused more than ever. "So what do we do?" A sadness came over the girl's face. "Well, I've been shooting them, hunting them actually for days now." Royce could almost feel her pain. He wondered if he would have had the strength to kill people he knew with such cold emotion. It made him glad he was a trucker. Most of the people he met were other truckers, and rarely did he see them again. Royce had a sinking feeling inside him. So this has spread throughout the whole of Alaska. A moment of thought shot across the girl's face. "I don't know. All I know is what happened in Whitesmoke." "And what was that?" The girl put her mug down and her eyes lifted upwards as she gathered her thoughts. "It started 10 days ago. A trucker came in sick, said he had the flu, fever. It's winter, so nobody thought any different. Bought some painkillers from the trading store, then booked a night in the hotel. Nobody knew his name. Nobody saw him for 3 days. Thought he just had the flu. When the clerk went to check on him, because he owed money, she said he was just walking around the room like a lost puppy. When he saw her, he went wild and attacked her, bit a chunk out of her neck and cheek. Thought it was the fever or the drugs he had taken, turned him a bit mad. Nobody even thought of a disease, but that's what it is, and that's how it started. She was a big, strong girl. She somehow managed to get free, locking him in his room. We don't have a police force in Whitesmoke, so my father and another man, Colin Henry, dragged him out of the hotel and tied him up in old Joe's garage. As they were tying him up, he bit both of them. My father on the hand and Colin Henry on his wrist. Neither injuries were bad and nobody thought anything of it. After that, it began to spread. Colin turned first. 3 days was all it took for him to become one of those black monsters. He bit Maple, one of the town's pensioners, and she bit one of the hippie ladies. I was out hunting when all this happened. Luckily for me, I returned home before my father turned, and he was able to tell me what happened. He knew he was going to die, but he saved my life, told me to kill anybody who was infected, and that's what I've been doing ever since." She picked up the mug again and took a sip. Royce put his hand over his heart. "That's not me." Swear I can strip naked if you need me to. He was glad the girl was holding a coffee mug and not the gun. Despite Royce still being alive, the world had gotten darker. His mind would think of one thing, want to ask it, and then think of another before he did. Then his mind cleared, and he realized something he should have said a long time ago. "Royce," he said, holding out his hand. "Royce Bryce. I own Wild Bear Trucking. My friends call me Skeeter, though." Joy broke out over the girl's face. She took his hand. "Skeeter, Amber Clayton, we used to own the gun and fish shop, White Smoke Hunting and Tackle." They both laughed. Royce's day had brightened up just a little.